One of my sales reps is a golfer. Now, so am I, more on my golf game later, but we were having a casual conversation about golf during one of our daily huddles, and he said something that really stood out to me. He said, golf is a lot like sales. And, I sat up in my seat because I agreed in the biggest way. But for me, the bigger picture is that golf was more like entrepreneurship than like sales, although I can see the exact similarities that he was talking about too. It may sound weird, but if you can understand this concept, I promise it will really, really help your business. And it will make you a better entrepreneur 100% if you can apply this. So here's more or less how the conversation went. He started off talking about how the nuances and technicalities of both golf and sales are pretty similar. But I'm not going to get too much into what he was saying as much as what I was saying, because I think what I was saying is more relevant to you guys. Transparently, I also don't fully remember what he was saying, but I know this will help you. So here's more or less what I was saying. Out of anything that I do, any of the skills that I have, I really care about business the most. Second to that comes golf. As a result, I tend towards being more of a goal-oriented person than a process-oriented person in some area of my life. I really enjoy the process of business and entrepreneurship, but I'm also hyper goal-oriented. So naturally, in business, I really care about the outcome, and this was something that was true for me, has been true for me for a decade. First I started out when I was playing Counter-Strike, CSGO in high school. I was playing competitively, and all I cared about were my stats and how well I was doing, what my rank was. I always wanted to be global elite, and when I wanted to maintain it and never lose it because I felt defined by my results. And then when it came to doing well in school, I cared so much about the marks that I was getting on my tests and the marks I was getting in my classes. And I felt defined by the university that I got into and the grades that I got. Not very healthy. I'm not trying to say this is how you should do it. I'm just saying this is how it was for me. And I'm still trying to break out of it as per this entire video's conversation. But I always struggled with letting go of the results for whatever the single thing was that was most important to me at the time. The thing that came after school was business, and revenue was the number that I was really attached to. It was always a number, it was always some kind of goal, it was always some kind of outcome. So what ended up happening for me is I started always expecting the absolute best from myself. I expected 100s on all of my tests in school. In CSGO, I expected the maximum KDR possible, highest rank possible. I always pushed myself for way more than what was healthy to push myself for. And I oftentimes would expect myself to achieve things that weren't necessarily realistic. For example, doing well in school is a skill. To push for 100 in every single class when you've never really tried hard in school before in your life is kind of foolish, because what ended up happening was a problem that I ran into because I'd never been super hardcore about studying, which a lot of my friends had, when they were brought up from children. My mental game was lacking. So I could answer like any test question, whatever, like it really wasn't hard for me to do. The problem is that I would go into the test thinking, oh, here's what's going to happen on this math test. I'm going to get everything right, and I'm going to mess up literally like the dumbest little thing that is just ridiculous, and I know way better than to do that. And it would happen like every single time until there was a test where I went in going, oh yeah, I'll get 100 on this, like this is easy, and then lo and behold, I get 100. But I didn't understand that, and I had these unrealistic expectations for myself without knowing what really went into achieving the result that I wanted. I just saw my friends doing well in school. I knew they went home and did homework. I was like, I'll just go home and do a lot of homework, whatever, right? And that worked, but that's a similar conversation to my last video about, what gets you from A to B doesn't get you from B to C, right? I was able to get into the mid-90s consistently, mid-high 90s kind of thing, some low 90s, mid-90s on average. But then getting up to the high 90s consistently was more of a mental game for me. And it was something I hadn't practiced, and I only had 1 year to learn all of this, right? So I managed to do it in one class in my second semester of my grade 12 year in high school. But where I'm going with this is my expectations were simply set too high, and it was terrible. I hated it. I hated school to begin with because I always felt like it pulled me away from business, but I hated always getting let down. Always. I was always let down. Same thing in CSGO, and same thing in business when I started caring too much about revenue. I was trying to hit 50K a month before hitting 10K a month. Remember the A to B, B to C conversation. Now back to golf. In golf, it's the thing I care second most about, right? Or I don't know. I don't even really, I want to do well in golf, but I don't really expect anything of myself. I don't see it as like a career, something of like the utmost importance. The thing that's taking all of my competitive drive, basically. I get really, really competitive. So that's part of what this expectations thing or where it comes from. But in golf, I go knowing that on a day-to-day basis, I'm gonna have like shit days, I'm gonna have days, I'm gonna have okay days, I'm gonna have good days, I'm gonna have insane days where I'm just like murdering. So I go into every golf game just like, there's a pretty good chance I'm just gonna be like shit today and it's gonna be terrible. So I go in with these lower expectations. And what ends up happening is I'm pleasantly surprised 80 to 90% of the time. And then the rest of the time, I'm like, yeah, like it happens. What are you gonna do, right? I love being out golfing, chilling with friends. I'm out in nature. I love that. I love being outdoors, and I just love the sport. I really like how it's a very technical sport. So I love golf, and I have such a good time golfing. And when I play well, sometimes I'm like in a really good mood because I'm like, this is amazing. Like I did not expect this to happen, and I'm loving it. Skip back to business. Oh, like, well, I only hit 24K this month. I want to hit 25. It's like, dude, come on. Like, get it together, man. And business is what takes up the vast majority of my time because I'm putting so much time and energy into my business, but so much less into golf. So when I saw this happen, I was like, man, if I can just manage my expectations in the business, if you can just accept reality and go into things realizing that there's a spectrum of outcomes, and you have to learn how to identify what each end of that spectrum of outcomes looks like given your current situation, which is really hard to do. Really hard to do. Like at first it was like, oh, I want to hit 100K a month by the end of the year. And then I was like, I don't know. Then it wouldn't happen, then it wouldn't happen, then it wouldn't happen. Now I'm getting closer and closer to a point where I can project some rough estimate of where I'm going to end up and come pretty close. Took me years to learn how to do this. And this is something you're going to have to learn how to do as well if you are setting projections. So since I learned this concept from golf, I started applying it more into my business. One thing I do is I set my desktop background to say whatever goal I'm trying to hit in business. Q3 2023 is a stable 150 plus calls per month, 120K per month. And I write down right below that, I really, really want to, but I don't have to. And this personally helps me because of this issue that I've faced in the past for quite a long time. So it's still a habit that I'm trying to kick. I've talked about this a long time in another video, but when you're kicking habits or building habits, you're going to trend, generally speaking, in a positive direction, but you're gonna have good days and then bad days and then good days, and it's gonna trend in the right direction, but you're still gonna have days where you cave into your vices if you're trying to kick one of those, or if it's setting projections in your business, you're going to, set your projections too high or like way too low maybe. And then with time, it balances out and you really start to, it's just the progression of building a habit or a skill in a lot of cases as well. It's the concept of you're driving down the road blind and there are things that you can bump into on the sides. And what happens is, you bump into one side, you bump into the other side, and then you start going straight for a while, you bump into the left side and you start going straight again. After a while, you bump into the right side, then eventually you more or less continue to go straight for a while. And it gets longer and longer and longer, how long you're going straight for. I don't think I'm losing you guys on this, but hopefully this isn't too boring. This is stuff that I always think about. A lot of it, I wish that there was somebody to tell me this stuff when I was starting out, because there wasn't. This is just the way that my brain operates. I don't know if you can relate to this at all, if what I'm saying is, generally speaking, it looks like people find my content quite helpful. So that's why I say this kind of stuff, but hopefully it's not too out there and kind of, not what you're looking for. So do drop a comment. Let me know if this is something that interests you, if you like this type of content, because I've been posting a lot of it, this conceptual stuff, because this is the stuff that's actually going to get you the results. Like everybody naturally wants the tactics and the strategies for business, but all the stuff that I talk about is the stuff that's actually going to get you the results in a really big way. And part of marketing is selling people what they want. So for me to get more clicks on a video, to get more views on a video, oftentimes what I have to do is talk about some new type of tactic or something like that. Like the last one was the slingshot effect. And I try to tie that in with some of this conceptual stuff because, there's a saying which is sell them what they want, give them what they need. And that's what I do in these videos. I post these titles, these thumbnails, 77K per month at 23, this thing made my SMMA explode. And then people click on it and I'm just like, here's the truth, right? This is what you actually need to do well. And some people be like, oh, this was a waste of time, this was boring, whatever. It's like they don't understand that this is actually like everything that I wish somebody was there to tell me. So now there's gonna be some random video on your screen. I still don't know which side it's gonna be on, but click it.